All right, everyone. It is my honor to have Mike Michalowicz on Pave The Way Podcast. Mike is a phenomenal author I've been following for years now, and his books have changed my life. And I mean that when I say that, because he writes some amazing business books. Today, we're going to talk about his new book, Get Different, which I just read twice, actually, over the last couple of months. And we're going to talk about why you need to be different in your marketing. But before we get into that, Mike, if the listeners are not familiar with you, how did you get into business? Because you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. So it's a joy to be with you, Greg. I started my first business right out of college. I actually got a job for a period of time in a computer store. I was like, ooh, this is not for me. I thought the business owner was like sitting in the back room, smoking cigars and counting money while I hustled out front in the store. So I said, I'm going to start my own business in the computer industry, and I'm going to make all the money. I'm going to sit in the back room, smoking cigars and counting money. And then I discovered very quickly, oh, he's not back there smoking cigars and counting money. It's pure panic back there. Where's he get clients? How's he going to pay the bills? I didn't realize that business ownership was so overwhelming. But I did fall in love with the journey. I've been an entrepreneur my entire adult life now. I've built and sold 2 companies. I've built subsequently 3 more multi-million-dollar businesses. And also, perhaps the most important thing is I've had a big struggles throughout too. One of my businesses was I was a total calamity. I lost everything. And it's those experiences of the wins, but really the losses that have encouraged me to investigate every element of entrepreneurship to see what makes entrepreneurship, make a successful entrepreneurial journey. And that's why I write books. So while I do own businesses today, I have people that operate the businesses, that are presidents of the companies. My job is to write books and to talk about books. And that's what I do. I'm a full-time author now for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that is awesome. I think I've read every single one of your books now, because the last the last one was the Pumpkin Plan, which was the one that I think you say is your favorite one.
That's my favorite one. That was my favorite to write. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the last one I read, but I read every single book. And like, there's a few of them that stood out that really moved the needle in my business. Like, Get Different, Clockwork, and then Profit First. We just discussed
Love it.
Yeah, Mike's books are phenomenal. And so let me ask you this, Mike, like you started your businesses, you've been an entrepreneur since, day one of your professional career. What is it about writing that really, like what really inspired you to be a full-time writer? Because a lot of people, they have a tough time writing books. Like it's
not easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm an efficient writer. It takes me on average 5, sometimes up to 10 years to write a book, which actually sounds a little crazy because it's like, well, how can you have like 8 books out there if it takes you 5 years? I write in parallel. So I'm writing right now 3 books and they're moving along. And it's a discipline. Like every morning, including this morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I wake up, I start my writing process. I actually do it with other authors. We work on collectively. What's inspired me is I found from other books I've read, nothing ever competes dollar for dollar value. Like for a $25 or $30 book, you get the download of someone's brain, all their research. It's unbelievable. I've gone to conferences. I've watched all the masterclass videos on the planet, and they are wonderful, but still nothing touches that download of a book. Like everything's there. So to me, it's the ultimate platform for the dissemination of knowledge, to share knowledge. So that's why I'm inspired to write. The process for me writing it's a labor. It's a labor of love, but it's a labor, and it takes me a long time. But once I get a book out there, and what I'm trying to achieve is I hope to address an established idea, but in a new way. So, Profit First is not the first book to talk about profitability. I think it's the first book to talk about it in that way. And I try to do the same thing with Clockwork and Get Different. There's a lot of books about marketing. I think Get Different, I hope, is the first book that really shows the essence of the framework that makes marketing successful versus not.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. And I'll tell you the reason why your books really resonate with me and a lot of my friends and people in our real estate space is like, you're really good at taking a concept, being very relatable with it, and then actually making it tactical. Like, for example, in like Profit First, it's like you talk about how to exactly divvy up your capital, put it in the tax account, put it in to pay yourself. It's super, super, super tactical. And I'm not gonna lie, you're a very funny writer. Like you make me laugh while I'm like, oh, this guy's really, I feel like I know this guy, but I just met you for the first time.
That's the goal. Yeah, good.
Yeah. And you're from the Northeast, so it's even better.
Rock and roll, Jersey, Taylor Ham, making cheese.
Look at that. That's right. So I want to cover some key concepts in your recent book, Get Different. So I read that book, like I said, twice, and it really stood out to me. I'm a big fan of marketing. I mean, honestly, marketing is the lifeblood of any business.
Of course.
If you don't got leads, you got no business. So
that's correct.
I've been preaching that from the choir for years. So I want you to just talk about, like, in today's world where there's just so much information out there, there's so many ads running, there's just so many people trying to get your attention. Why is that so important now? Because I just see, if you go on Facebook, it's like every other thing is an ad. And I just want you to talk
Unbelievable, right?
to that. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. And what happens is the more we consumers are advertised to, the more efficient we become at ignoring it. There's actually a mechanism called habituation. It's at the base of our brain is a neural network called the reticular formation. It's really efficient at ignoring things. And we learn what not to pay attention to. So one classic example is, like, have you ever got a "Hey friend" email, Greg?
Oh my gosh. Oh
right?
my gosh. Yes.
Oh, me too. Oh my gosh. Like, so overwhelming. The first one I got, though, did get my attention because it was different. And I was like, oh, who's this friend who's so friendly? I don't even use my first name. And then I read it. I was like, oh, it's smarmy marketing. The second one I deleted. I've never read a "Hey friend" of the hundreds, maybe thousands I've gotten since. Delete or spam. And that's called habituation. In our marketing, what we need to do is distinguish ourselves. If we are that common noise, we go invisible. And there's so much common noise out there. It's only getting louder, that common noise, but it doesn't get our attention. But the one thing that always gets our attention, and it's hardwired into humanity, is something that's unexpected. If you're walking down the street and you go like, what? Like that double what? That is your brain saying there's something peculiar, unexpected, different than what I was expecting here. What is that? And we have to pay double attention to it. Then once we have attention, our job in our marketing is to retain that attention. But the first step is, if you do the common noise, if you send out a "Hey friend," it's going to be invisible. If you do more of that Facebook marketing like everyone else is, just like you're scrolling by it, so are they. We have to do something that disrupts that pattern. And inevitably it's the unexpected.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Is that like another version of that thing called like pattern interrupt?
Pattern interrupt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the irony. So everyone knows of it, but so few people do it. What most people do is the best practices. They say, oh, "Hey friend" works really well. I should do the "Hey friend." Best practice. It goes invisible. The Facebook. Oh my gosh, everyone's on Facebook running ads with, these really weird looking people as clickbait. I should do the same. It goes invisible. We have to do a pattern interrupt. Means don't follow the pattern, but so many of us quickly fall into that trap.
No, that is phenomenal. And it's so true. So in the book, you address this problem and you use this framework that is super easy to remember, the DAD framework. Like that, like stood out like a sore thumb. Yeah. And I'm like, this is something I want to talk about on the podcast. So can you explain that DAD framework and how it can work in, in marketing in general? And then I want to cover like a real estate example, because we got a lot of real estate entrepreneurs.
Love it. Yeah, for sure. So the DAD framework is an acronym for the 3 elements that your marketing must have for it to be effective. If you miss any one of these elements in the DAD, it is crippled. So, and also is a great mnemonic. DAD's easy to remember. Any marketing you look at, you can simply ask yourself, does DAD approve? And that's a real simple way of saying, does it pass the DAD test? So first letter stands for differentiate. We already talked about this. If you do the common noise, you are invisible. So we have to do something that's a pattern interrupt. Now, the key is this. We're not looking to be outrageous here. I'm not saying dress like Yucko the clown and show up to something. That will be noticed because it's different, but it doesn't pass the second test, which is attractive. So different means it's uncommon, but also it has to be attractive, meaning the community that we're targeting has to say, oh, that's for me. And how do you do it? You speak the language of the community, solve a problem or need they have. You entertain or educate, but there has to be a reason for them to stay engaged. And then the last part is direct. Direct means tell them what to do with this information. It's the call to action. And the key with the direct is it has to be reasonable. So if you ask something outrageous, like, I get your attention, you're looking to buy a car, you come into my lot, I'm like, give me $100,000, Greg, and I'll find your dream car for you. You're like, what? No way. It's too unreasonable. So what is probably reasonable is, hey, give me your cell number and I'll text you pictures of our inventory so we can hone in on your dream car. That's a transaction. You give me permission to communicate with you. I give you information that serves you. So the direct needs to move to the final transaction, but in a reasonable path where the customer feels safe throughout.
I love that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, because like I remember when I started in the real estate, like our listeners, we buy and sell properties, we have rentals. That's kind of our niche we're in. I'm sure you've interacted with other real estate people. And I remember from day one, it's like direct response marketing. You always got to make sure that whatever you're doing in marketing, you can justify with an ROI, right? So like everyone preaches tracking your numbers, and you talk about that in the book, and you have a phenomenal chapter on that. But a lot of people in the real estate space, it's copycat syndrome. Like one guru says, send out this postcard and you're going to get a million phone calls. And then the whole entire marketplace, like when I bought that house in New Jersey, I sold, the guy was like, hey, this is the 5th postcard I got. I ended up getting to deal with him. You know, he was down in Florida. He was a nice guy, Stan. It worked out. But there was 4 other people, you know, and there's a lot of people in our market trying to go after the same prospect. So if you were a real estate entrepreneur in a tough competitive market like the Northeast where I operate out of, what are some things that you would try to do to stand out? Because it's funny. I want to share a quick example before I let you answer. I took your book, Get Different, the colors, and you talked about how you made that book like unique to other marketing books. And I took those colors and I made a postcard with like those similar colors. Interesting. I want to buy your house. And I sent it and we got some phenomenal response. That came right from your book, just like kind of tweaking it. Like,
I love it. It's so smart. I mean? Yeah. We test those colors. Those colors, I actually have it here. You know, when we designed this book, it was specifically looking at what the contemporaries are doing so it stand out. We did Amazon tests where we had people just going through Amazon. We sent pictures of it and see what book could you find the fastest. And we did tracking to see where they find the fastest. And that's how we honed in on this. So that's the metrics and ROI. But the first thing and the easiest thing to do is ask, how's everyone else doing it? And what's the opposite of it? So if everyone's saying postcards, that's the one thing I can't do. What if I sent, chocolates in a heart-shaped chocolate and say, I just love your house? Like that alone is 10 times better than the postcard, because the 10 postcards go in the garbage. The one heart chocolate box gets noticed. You have to realize that how the human mind works is when we see something as irrelevant, we will see it as relevant going forward constantly. Next time you get junk mail, notice how quickly you just throw stuff out, like garbage, garbage, garbage. It happens at the speed of a blink. And then we stop when something is a benefit to us. Maybe it's a check. Something is a threat. If white powder comes out of that envelope, you're noticing. Hopefully that never happens. And other times when it's unexpected, it's lumpy, it's different. Like, what was that? I'm curious. So we got to do something that invokes that curiosity and breaks from that more junk mail white noise.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where a lot of real estate investors, they try to stand out now. Like, for example, I just sent out a few hundred literally handwritten letters, like a robot wrote the letters. So when someone sees that, they're like, whoa, this is addressed for me personally. And then, hopefully that triggers a higher response. Because everyone in the real estate space, they're always trying to play like catch up, like, oh, we got to catch up with this trend. And I'm like, you know what? If you can just stand out and know your numbers, you're gonna just go really far, because everyone just tries to copy everyone, and then something gets saturated. And you always have to be on your toes, and that's why your book really talks about really understanding when you are different. It's going to really make a difference. And you made a great point in the book. I remember listening on Audible and I had to keep pausing it to just like sit and think about it. It's like when you do a bunch of tests, most tests aren't going to work, but the one that does work is going to be worth it in spades.
Right. And that becomes your bell cow. And then you start milking it for all it's worth. I'm just thinking right now, like, could you imagine that someone that's a real estate investor actually does a video and they go in front of a property they're interested in, they do a quick video. You can fill in 30 seconds and say, hey, I'm staying in front of your house. I was just driving by. I just want you to know, I love your house. And I want you to understand, I'm a real estate investor. I buy properties that I think I can enhance and beautify and improve the community. So if you're looking to sell the house, your home looks like such a perfect fit for what I do. And I'd love to talk with you further. Something like that it's different. And also the key about being different is not being inconsistent with the reality of who you are. So like, if my goal is to buy a house because I want to flip it, I want to enhance and improve it, don't say, hey, I'm buying a house because I want to live here for 30 years and move my family in. And there's people that do that, but that's a lie. It's incongruent. And people can sniff that out. I was on Zoom, this is like last month, and before the Zoom session started, everyone had their pictures up. And this one person, I'm like, God, they're awfully young to be here. They're like a teenager. And then they turned their camera on and I was like, oh my God, you just aged 30 years, grandma. Like, what happened? I'm like, oh, that was your favorite picture from 30 years ago. That's inconsistent. So there's a tinge of distrust. I'm like, you put yourself one way, but you're really something else. Just show me who you are. And I'll resonate, if you're a fit for me, with who you are. But I don't want to see something that you're posing to be. And I see that in all different markets, including real estate. Let's be integral with our message. Be different about it. Be truthful to it. Speak to the interests of the customers, but be integral with what you're looking to do, and you'll attract the right people.
Absolutely. That is so true. And this is what I preach to my team. I say, listen, you always need to be a truth teller with the prospects, because when they call in, they might be a little skeptical, because anytime you see marketing, you're a little skeptical, you know? So I'm like, listen, Brett, I always tell Brett on my team, like, listen, tell the seller the truth, be honest with them, let them know all their options. And if this is a fit for them and they know that this is a voluntary transaction, we're going to be able to serve them. And quite frankly, another thing you talk about in the book is like, it's like that message to market match. Like if you're marketing and someone calls in and they might not be a fit, it's amazing that you find out they're not a fit, because ultimately you can't serve them. And I see so many people trying to just put a square peg in a round hole.
Right. And it's you're battering the customer, you're battering yourself, and it'll end in frustration. It's funny that there's concepts in selling, and that the ultimate objective of selling, which is a little different than marketing, is to vet out the people that are trying to kind of push their way in that are not a fit, those square pegs. But it does start with our marketing. The only experience people have with your real estate business until they experience the business is the marketing. So it better be fluid, because then you're attracting the right people in and you're bringing them down the right course. If there's an inconsistency, you're constantly going to have sales problems.
Absolutely. And then you have to hide behind like lies and like try to like explain to them, well, we're not like that. We're not like that. That's like on my website.
That's not me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right. It's like, I have like on our Velocity House Buyers website, I'm like, listen, these are people who actually sold us their house. We're going to be honest. And here's a line that I learned from a guy named Frank Kern, who's a big marketer. Actually, he talks about something where like he has webinars, and it's like, whether or not you want to buy something at the end, I promise this will be a helpful webinar. You're going to learn something from it. And he delivers that promise. I was a client of his. He's got great stuff. So now with our sellers, I say, listen, whether I buy your house or not, I promise at the end of this conversation, I'm either going to make you an offer to buy your house, or if it's not a fit, I'll tell you exactly what to do for free. And either way, you can't lose.
You get value no matter what.
Yeah. And they're just like, oh, this is awesome. I had one lady leave me a Google review one time. I never even bought her house. She's like, oh, they were helpful. They told me what to do. He didn't have to buy in my house, but I would, I'd refer him. So I mean, like, I guess that works, It's
a big deal. Yeah. The word gets out. The word gets out.
Absolutely.
We build reputations in two ways. One is through the experience that people have with us, but also through our marketing messaging, and it's congruence with what we do. So if you sell one thing and deliver another, that kills your reputation. If you just suck at what you do, that kills your reputation. I expect everyone here to be really good at what you do, but you put yourself in a dangerous position if you're selling one thing that's inconsistent. Even if you're excellent at what you do, but it's inconsistent with what you said, that's a problem, and it crushes the experience.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And, that's why you got to be true to yourself. You got to be true to your company, who you truly serve. I think you talk about that in the Clockwork book, like who is your ideal customer? Who do you serve? And then how can you serve them? And then Pumpkin Plan. Sorry. When you clone, you do the cloning, and that's a whole other topic. But Mike, man, this has been a lot of fun. So what's Mike, I guess question for you, what's the future look like for Mike? I mean, what do you got in the pipeline going down? I know you got some books you're working on.
Oh, more books. I mean, I'm on a mission to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. I actually just released my first ever children's book, because I think we can help young kids in starting good habits around finances and other things. So I dipped my toe in the water there. But I have my next book is going to be on hiring people, employing people, about company culture. And I've been studying this for about 4 or 5 years. We've been running tests. I own a few companies here. We've been running tests on our own companies. And I think we found some really innovative, simple stuff that you don't hear talked about that can really make a business run effectively, because the employees are acting like owners.
That's awesome. And that's something I see a lot of my friends that they have trouble with. It's like they're getting their teams to buy in. They have a tough time.
Yeah. How do you get that buy-in? Yeah.
How to get that buy-in and make them feel like the owner, you know what I mean? And make
exactly. That's exactly what I'm writing about.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward for that one to come out. And everything you write, like I got to say, I mean, yes, if people are listening, they're not familiar with Mike and his work, pick up his books. They are phenomenal. They're easy to read. They're applicable. They're tactical. And Mike, I really appreciate you being a guest on the show. And it's really awesome to interact with you for the first time one-on-one. So if people want to learn more about you, what's like the best website for them to check you out? And then the best place to buy some of your books if they're interested?
Thank you for sending this to me. Go to mikemotorbike.com, which actually is a tip in itself, right? So my name is Mike Michalowicz. No one can spell it. Mike Motorbike. It's a different approach, easy to remember, hopefully attractive because you can remember it. And hopefully you go there. So mikemotorbike.com. You'll see all my books. You get free chapter downloads. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal. You can get that. I have my keynotes up there. I do 3 I think I have 3 or 4 major keynotes I've done, which you don't have to fly out to see those keynotes. You can see them on your computer anytime you want. It's all for free, MikeMotorbike.com.
Awesome. We'll make sure we have that in the show notes. And Mike, I hope you have a phenomenal day, man. This was awesome.
You too, brother. Thanks for having me.